On the 17th of June 2019 was the day that I ordered my first 3D printer. That was Creality Ender-3 Pro. Now, almost 5 years later, I have once again chance to play with the Creality Ender-3, this time V3 KE. And boy, this really is an awesome printer. In my opinion, this is maybe one of the best bed slingers that you can get today on the market. Well, I'm saying that well aware that the competitor unfortunately had some heat put on it and is not available. But let's look at this latest bed slinger from Creality. We'll start in a couple of seconds. As I said, the first 3D printer I got myself was the Creality Ender-3 Pro in 2019. And also one of the first videos I released on my channel was the bed adhesion on Creality printers, stock magnetic bed plate against the 3 Labs one that was a metallic one. While most of the content you see on this channel is related to Home Assistant or Smart Home, I do love to play with 3D printers. Unfortunately, my Home Assistant part of the channel is taking a lot of time, so I'm unable to play with 3D printers as much as I like. But whenever I get the opportunity to try something, I will definitely try. And as I said, this is a personal thing. But let's skip the memory lane and let's talk about Creality Ender-3 V3 KE. This video is not sponsored by Creality. They didn't pay me to do review, they even didn't send me any information about the printer. They just asked me if I would like to try this printer, and if I feel okay with it, I can record video on it. And I really would like to share my opinion about this printer with all of you viewers. It's funny times. As I said, I've done a full circle, from Creality to Voron back to Creality. I did have my fair share in testing of other printers, a lot of them you haven't seen them here, because I do that in my office. No, that's not my day job, but whenever people need to buy 3D printers for the company, I help them, assist them, and recommend some of the brands. For example, the other brand that is currently known for their flaming beds, yeah, that printer I did recommend to my company. Not the bed slinger version, the Core XY version. But those printers are good for the companies because they are plug and play, they work out of box, and usually people think of them as a reliable machine that just works. Actually, this Creality Ender-3 V3 KE is exactly the same type of the printer. If I would dye it white, remove the badge of Creality, it could be some completely different brand as far as I'm concerned, because this one really did also work out of box. If you're interested, I will be posting a link up here to the stream where we unboxed the printer. I didn't even open the box before the stream. We assembled it, we also took a peek at the main board, and we did a test print. Yeah, it took me almost 2.5 hours to do everything on stream, but if I was to do it on my own, without the stream, without talking, without interactions, etc., I would probably have finished it in around 15 minutes and started printing out of the box. If I remember correctly from the stream, there is pretty much no assembly with this printer. There are, I think, 6, 8, 9, 10 bolts that you have to bolt in, and that's pretty much it. The next thing you have to do is set up everything, and this is done via the screen. You can use this printer in offline, meaning that you slice the files and use the USB stick to transfer them. Or you can connect it via the Wi-Fi network to your network and then use Slicer on your PC to slice and upload files and start printing directly from the Creality Slicer. And of course, you have a third option, and that is to use Creality account. And via the Creality account, you can of course control the printer, see the status of the printer, send files, start the print, etc. So what's so special about this printer? This one doesn't come with the AI out of the box. For that, you still need to purchase the separate camera, which can be purchased and attached to this printer, and then this printer should also have the AI functionality. But since I do not have that specific camera, I wasn't able to test the AI functionality, for example, for the spaghetti syndrome, where there is an issue with the print and the printer stops. But on the other hand, these printers arrived pre-calibrated from the factory, and they have taken into account two things. One is the input shaping and the other one is pressure advance. You can of course play with those settings and customize them or play with those settings and create a new calibration for your printer, but as I said, those printers arrived out of box with input shaping and the motion advance. This printer also features Smart Self-Test Z Offset. This means that the printer will do the Z offset calibration between the nozzle and the BL touch sensor, and it then calculates the Z offset values, so every first layer should be a perfect first layer. In terms of perfect first layers, I did print around 30-35 hours total during the testing with this printer, and I didn't have a single failed print. There was a failed print, but it was not actually failed print. It was just one part out of 40 parts on the build plate. And for that, it was also my mistake. Remember, I took this printer out of box, we assembled it on stream, and I did 30 hours of printing without failed print. Except I didn't put my thumbs on the build plate to lift it where it says I should, and I did have a finger stain on one place, on one spot on the build plate, and exactly on that spot on the build plate, this part started to peel off. Again, this was me because I didn't clean the build surface between the prints. I still haven't, after 30-35 hours of printing, cleaned the build surface, and it's still working perfectly. When you find the print that you would like to print, you open the file inside the Creality print, and this is the Creality slicer. Check that everything is okay. Click on Preview, it will start the slicing process, it will warn you if the supports are necessary and are missing. You will see notification here. But I just play dumb, click on X, close it because I ignore it, as I know that this printer is capable of printing things like this even without support. Total print time for this lightsaber is 4 hours, 40 minutes and 35 seconds. It will use 140 grams of the material length is 46 meters, and material cost is $2.78, I presume, dollars for this whole print. We can see the layers. As I said, the next option you have is to export it to USB stick or click on LAN printing and do the Wi-Fi transfer. Click on LAN printing, confirm, select a printer, and you can either send the G-code or one-click print, meaning that the file will be sent to printer and the printer will automatically start to print this item. And after the transfer is done, you can go to the printer screen, the touch screen, use it to start the print. Most of the items you will see in today's video were found through the Thanks. This is more or less a search engine, but also repository for the STL files. But most of the items were downloaded actually from printables. Yeah, the links to all of the files I've printed today will be down in a video description, so you can go and check them out and print them out for yourself. First item we printed, it was printed on the stream, was this, of course, benchy. It took around 90 minutes to complete the print. I'm not sure why it says here that it takes 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Probably there are some settings, or probably I could accelerate some of the speeds in the slicer to be even faster, but as I said, pre-sliced benchy that arrived on the stick from Creality took around 90 minutes to completely print. But also please note, this was printed with the Hyper PLA. This is a special form or special material, PLA material, that has a better melting point, meaning that the hot end can melt it faster, so the flow can be faster, so the printer, if the motors are of course capable of it, can also move faster. With normal PLA, the flow is lower than the flow rate for the Hyper PLA, so even if the motors can move faster, the printhead simply cannot output the quantity of material it needs to output. After replacing the demo or test spool of white Hyper PLA, I've put on a new spool of black Hyper PLA, and everything else was printed once again with the Creality Hyper PLA Black. I started with the test. It's called 3D Printer Test Mini. It printed perfectly in 1 hour and 38 minutes. Yeah, it may look like one of the towers failed, but unfortunately it actually failed because I snapped it during the recording of the same print. So everything printed perfectly, but I'm just clumsy and I broke one of the towers off. Next item I printed is the SD card holder. It's a very nice print to print, especially if you have ton of SD cards. It enables you to store both the SD cards plus one SD card reader, all in one place. The item printed in around 26 minutes, again very fast print. The quality of the print is really great. Next print was the Matterhackers Filament, and it printed in around 37 minutes. Again, this print, as with any other or all the prints I did on this printer, is printed without any single support. And as you can see, the back side that is tilted, yeah, it also printed perfectly. Very nice, high quality print. Next is a Saguaro Cactus Sceleton. This is a very good print to test your printer. Remember, this printer is doing high-speed prints, and the table is shaking with the print. Because of that, you may see on some of the printers issues with printing, but not with this one. It printed this on my shaky table perfectly. Print time was 2 hours, 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Next item that I printed for the test is also one of the items that I always print with the new filament. It is a Voron filament card. Actually, it's a nice gimmick or nice way to print sample of each of the filaments that you get, put them in a stand, so if you want to reference color or type of the material in future, you can use that color to search for the filament that will be perfect for the print you want to print. Again, it printed perfectly in 9 minutes and 6 seconds. Vase was the next print and it took 1 hour 45 minutes and 51 seconds to print it on the KE. A retro planter was the next item I printed. It printed in 1 hour 47 minutes and 52 seconds. Again, very nice high finish print. Euro coin sorter was the next print, and this is the first print that I've seen some artifacts or issues. Actually, there were no issues, but because there were also no supports, there is stringing, or you can see filament in couple of places. This is something that can be easily cleaned off, but as I said, this is actually the first print out of all the prints I did that had any issues with printing. Total print time for this was 4 hours, 18 minutes and 03 seconds. Vase Releta was the next print and it took 5 hours, 16 minutes and 54 seconds. Again, it was printed in a vase mode, and it's also very nice high quality print. The last print I did was the torture tester, but that one didn't come out perfectly. Okay, my mistake was to shrink it 50%. Second mistake was I used 0.10 instead of 0.20 for printing this item, and all the pins have stuck together, so they cannot be moved. Everything else works. You can pull the toast out, you can open it, close it, you can also turn the lock to lock everything. There are no artifacts inside, but as I said, those pins that show you the tolerances, all of them are stuck and cannot be moved. Okay, now that we've looked at the test prints, let's look at some technical details of the printer for all of you that want to know more. It has a very good 60-watt ceramic heater. It has a bimetal heat break, and it also has a copper nozzle, which allows you, the overall package allows you to print with materials up to 300 Celsius degrees. The printer also features dual fans, but overall, if you combine the fans on the print head plus also the fan inside the case to cool down the electronics, it's not that loud. I think that the maximum loudness I got out of that printer from the measurement was around 71-72 decibels. And remember, when you are measuring the sound, you usually measure it at 1 meter or higher distance. This was like 10, 15, maximum 20 centimeters from the printer itself. Yes, you can hear the fans, but no, it's not as loud as, for example, my Voron 2.4 R2 is. That one sounds like an airplane. Some of the people may complain that the spool is located above the printer because it shifts or it can impact the center of gravity, and also it can impact the shaking of the printer. While that may be the case, there are also some STLs that you can download from the internet to move the spool to the side or to move it completely off the printer. I didn't have any issue so far after, as I said, around 35 hours of total print time. In terms of the materials, as it says here, it can print with Hyper PLA, PETG, ABS, TPU, ASA and of course normal PLA. Of course, for the ABS you need enclosure. But believe me, if my old Ender-3 Pro was able to print all the parts for my Voron 2.4, that is ABS, then this machine definitely can print the ABS. As I said, I've tested everything with the Creality Hyper PLA black spool. I have one more here. Unfortunately, due to some personal issues, although I wanted to test the TPU, the TPU is still in the box. If I manage to do so, I will be printing items also with this Polymaker Polyflex TPU. I will be posting links or images of that on my Twitter and also Instagram account. So don't forget to check the links down in the video description and follow me on the Instagram and Twitter too. And by the way, where we are already here, don't forget also to subscribe so you do not miss my other, not only 3D printer reviews, but also updates for your smart home. Let's go back to the assembly. As I said, there are only few screws and 2-3 wires that you have to connect to assemble everything. But there is one thing I did, because I had a hint from other creators that were reviewing this printer, and that one is to tighten the bed. You just use the tools that are provided in the box with the printer, tighten everything, put the bed back, and that's it. Let's go back to noise. We can hear the sound and see the decibels when the printer is starting up. Next you can hear and see the decibels for the sounds where both of the fans, the part cooling fans, are running. Last sound is the sound of printer printing at high speed, 3D Benchy. And as I said, the printer is really not that loud. I've already mentioned the AI camera, but also you can get a vibration compensation sensor. This is the input shaper sensor. Plus I've also mentioned the Hyper PLA produced by Creality. As far as the print volume, it is 220 by 220 by 240, which is a pretty okay build volume. Typical printing speed is around 300 mm per second, but again this depends on the print you are printing and also material you are using. Maximum speed is 500 mm per second if you are using high-end or high-speed printing materials, and maximum acceleration is around 8000 mm per second. We mentioned the maximum nodal temperature of 300 degrees, plus of course the maximum bed temperature is 100 degrees centigrade. As far as the price is concerned, this printer now costs around 299 euros. This should include all the taxes, and if you are buying it as a company, you can also receive the invoice, which is a nice thing, especially for people that are looking for printers to build a print farm. There are some things that Creality doesn't make, and that is the multi-material units. Maybe in the future we will see Creality make some kind of efficient but not expensive MMU, but on the other hand, if you are looking for a simple printer that prints out of box, that you do not have to upgrade anything on it or replace parts to get it working, then this one is a really nice printer. But I did mention something previously, and this is also very big difference between the competitors. This printer is based on the Klipper, and for all of you that do know Klipper, you know that this is a good thing. For all of you that are using Marlin, you should switch to Klipper as soon as possible. It just opens up so much possibilities and it's easier to work with than the Marlin itself. so this printer or firmware is based on the Klipper. There is a way through the menu with the latest release of firmware for you to enable root access, and after you enable the root access, you can install some other components, for example mainsail, fluid, etc., to get a more native look and feel of the Klipper printer. Some of the functionalities of the printer are still locked, and this is the screen. Maybe in the future we will see the open source version of this touchscreen firmware, but for now, yes, you can add Klipper, or yes, you can customize the Klipper on the printer and use it with the customized version. And unlike some of the competitors, for example on the market, there is also a way for you to revert back to the stock firmware, if you wish to do so. There are a lot of pluses, in my opinion, for this printer. So what are the negative aspects of the printer? Okay, let's say that the spool on top is a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be the bad thing, but some of you will see it as an issue itself. The next one is that no matter how tight I did screw the screws under the build plate, unfortunately there was always a tilt. The good thing is that the printer has a very nice way of calibrating itself and it compensates for that tilt, but I don't know why they just simply didn't do a thicker build plate or thicker plate or whatever to make it more stable and to make it level as much as possible. Third is both plus and con. That is the cloud services. A lot of you will never want to use cloud services, and cloud services are integrated tightly into the slicer and also the printer. But the good side is that if you do not want to use cloud services, you can use this printer without any cloud account or cloud service needed, unlike some other companies that are pushing, One thing I would love to see Creality do in the future is some kind of a simpler way to replace the nozzles themselves. For example, they could do a cooperation with E3D and just use their type of nozzles in their future printers. On the other hand, I'm also very disappointed with E3D's nozzles because those that I tested have worse flow rate than this Creality Hot End does. Overall, this is an excellent printer. I think that on top of $220, and that is the price of my original Ender-3 Pro, I bought parts at least for additional $200 or $300. I replaced everything on the printer that I could replace. So I spent more in the parts of upgrading that printer than the direct cost of the printer itself. In this case, you really do not have to replace anything on the printer, you can just unbox it, assemble it and start printing. My opinion on this printer based on all of the printers I've tested so far, on channel or off channel, is that this is currently the best bed slinger you can get on the market today. And also for 300 euros, it's a very good buy. Oh yeah, and for all those of you that 1 year ago said that after this specific Core XY printer was released, who would in a sane mind buy the bed slinger, then eat their words year later after that same company released bed slinger. I hope that you this time do not have anything against the bed slingers that work out of box and that, as far as I know, today are still not a fire hazard. I hope that you did like this video. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any kind of a comment or a question in regard to this video, this printer, you can always ask it down in the comment section below. And before I end up the video, I really would like to thank all those wonderful people that are supporting me and that have become YouTube channel members. Thank you all for all of your support. But let's not forget each and every one of you who has watched, liked, shared or subscribed to my channel. Thank you. If you too want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button down below and becoming a YouTube channel member for only €2 or $2 per month. Or you can go to my merchandise store and get something there. And last but not least, you can always send me super thanks and I will be super thankful for that. I will be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have fun.